Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite MCU movies and shows at the moment. So basically MCU stuff. It's hard to pick, especially since I'm very much suffering from MCU fatigue, superhero fatigue. So there's not a whole lot of stuff that I'm just overly fond of right now. But I thought I would talk about kind of the top 5 of the ones I like. Starting in 5th place was Civil War. I thought Civil War was a lot of fun. I have to remind myself it's a Captain America movie because it feels more like Avengers 2.5. It's got so many people in it. It had the introduction of Holland's Spider-Man, which is great. I love the story. I'd never read the actual comic book version of Civil War because it's been a long time since I was really into actual comics. But I thought all of the actors were doing their job well here. I thought the introduction of Black Panther was done really well here. And it's interesting because you can understand the points of view of both Steve Rogers and Tony Stark. And you understand why they both think they're the good guys in this, why they think the way they do. And you really just have two different philosophies, both of which can be considered right, butting heads, which is what's causing the problem. And it just escalating. And then, of course, Zemo, the guy who plays Zemo, by the way, is fantastic. In this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he is just so good in that role. And you understand his motivations. He doesn't feel like he's the bad guy. So there's a lot of gray areas in Civil War, and I really like that. The action sequences are really impressive. That airport fight is choreographed and done so well. I love the comedic banter. Like with Spider-Man and Winter Soldier, I think. I enjoyed the banter, and I think Falcon's in that. It's been a while since I watched it. But it has a lot of humorous moments in it as well. The fight between Iron Man and Captain America and Winter Soldier and all is really good at the end when Tony learns how his parents died. The stakes feel so high. I mean, it feels more like an Avengers movie than Age of Ultron did. And I really enjoy that. I think it was a lot of fun. And I like the fact that pretty much everybody gets their moments in it, which is really well done. Next on the list is Loki, the TV series. I actually really liked season 1 of Loki a lot. Tom Hiddleston is so good in the role, but I like the female Loki too. Sylvie, I think the actress playing her is really, really good. It's nice to see Owen Wilson back doing some stuff because I've always liked Owen Wilson. And then I find the story itself interesting. Not the best in the world, but interesting. But it's definitely got some really strong moments, especially toward the end. I love seeing Richard E. Grant as the kind of older Loki and watching him go out like an awesome badass. That part at the end when he's just recreating the whole city is so amazing. Plus, I loved a lot of the music in this series. Like that actual Loki theme and the variations of it is some fantastic Marvel music. Some of my favorite music in Marvel. And then I think Majors does a good job as He Who Remains, is that it? Which is that variation of Kang. Even though we don't get him much there, just kind of at the end, I liked him. I thought, as an actor, I thought he was good in the role. Curious to see if they're going to keep him around or not with everything going on with him. But I thought it was a really good series, so much so that I was really excited when season 2 got announced. The trailer for season 2 looked good. I'm really looking forward to season 2 dropping. It's really the only one of the shows that really got me excited. I thought WandaVision started out good and then Peter just kind of fell out toward the end, but it started out really good. Falcon and the Winter Soldier I thought started out pretty good and then quickly went downhill and ended with a whimper. And those are the only ones I've watched, actually. I've kind of given up on the shows other than Loki. Next on the list is the first Captain America. I really liked this one, set in World War II. With Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, and that's what they should have called the movie. Hugo Weaving is the Red Skull. Because I like me some Hugo Weaving. I loved him as Megatron. I loved him in the Lord of the Rings movies. I loved him in the Matrix movies. He's just a good actor. So he makes a fantastic Red Skull. Also, the makeup used for the Red Skull on the Red Skull is fantastic. I did not know Chris Evans could be such a good Steve Rogers because I knew him. I knew he'd been the Human Torch, so when the casting was announced, I was kind of like. But I adopted a wait and see approach. That's always been my approach ever since Heath Ledger as the Joker, because I was one of those people when he was cast as the Joker. I was like, huh? And then I saw The Dark Knight, and I was like, wow. So now I always, anytime I hear casting news, I'm like, wait and see. And Chris Evans is a great Captain America. The guy playing Bucky does a good job as Bucky. We got Tommy Lee Jones in here. We got Haley Atwell, who I really like as Peggy Carter. And again, it's got that wonderful combination of humor and drama and action that just comes together well in a nice World War II setting with the present time bookending it. And that bit when Steve wakes up at the end is a great way to end that movie and make us wonder what's going to happen next with us getting ready to lead into Avengers at that point. Just a fantastic period piece. And number 2 on the list is No Way Home, which is definitely my favorite Spider-Man movie. I mean, there's a lot of fan service stuff in it, but it works within the story, and I never feel like characters are really just shoehorned in. I mean, some of them, like the Lizard, don't get quite as much to do, but everybody feels like they have their place. It's great seeing Alfred back as Doc Ock again. He's so good in that role, and he's so good in this movie. And of course, William Dafoe as the Green Goblin. It's one of the best parts of the movie. I really hope if they ever do a Dark Knight Returns movie, they cast him as an older Joker, because that man needs to play the Joker at some point. I mean, he's kind of doing that here, but he would be such a good older Joker if they ever do Dark Knight Returns as a live action movie. So I love William Dafoe in this. He's great. It's great seeing all the Spider-Man, and kudos to them for keeping that, well, officially under wraps. I mean, we all kind of suspected and knew, but it was a good job on their part, basically keeping that under wraps. So we did get that wow moment in theaters when Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire showed up. As someone who was in college and stuff when the Tobey Maguire movies were dropping, that was a lot of fun for me. Matter of fact, one of my favorite theater stories is when we went to see Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2 in 2004. And it was several of my friends. It's probably 6 to 8 of us. I forget the exact number. There was a few of us. And we had been partying that night. And yeah, I remember one of my friends kept trying to light his cigarette backwards. One of my friends had his shoes on backwards, and that same friend ended up falling out of his chair while we were watching the movie. Literally just fell out onto the floor. We had to sit on the very front row because we got there at the last minute. Have you ever had to watch a movie at a theater from the very front row? I would not recommend doing that. We were watching a movie like this. If the sprinklers had went off, we would have drowned. But it's a fun story. It's a fun memory. It was a happy time. I think that one, and when we went to see Two Towers, might be the other one, because we went to back when it had the midnight showing, we went to Two Towers, and there was about a dozen of us, and it was so packed we couldn't all sit together. We had to split into 2 smaller groups. It was a really fun time. But I like No Way Home. Tom Holland is great, but I feel like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, even though they're only in the 3rd act of the movies, really get their chance to shine. There's some nice humorous bits in it. I feel like Benedict's putting in a good job as Doctor Strange. I really like the movie. It comes together really well. And it's a good reset for the Holland Spider-Man the way it ends. I enjoyed it. And number 1 on the list, yeah, I'd definitely say number 1 has to be Iron Man. I love the original Iron Man because it's more grounded. Some of the new Marvel movies, they've just gotten to where they're so over the top, so on a universe or galactic scale, so much CGI, so much special effects. And Iron Man had that, but it's like, it's more grounded, you know, it's more gritty, it's more down to earth, it's more plausible to happen, if that makes sense. I enjoy the low levelness of it, the more down to earthness of it, if that makes sense. I mean, relatively speaking. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is such a good Tony Stark. That is one of the best pieces of superhero casting ever. I mean, that's like Christopher Reeve's Superman level of good casting. Terrence Howard is fine as Rhodey. Jeff Bridges is great as, I actually forget his character, Jebediah Stone or whatever his name is. He's good as the villain in it. I enjoy just watching the character grow, watching Tony Stark grow as a person, watching him forge the suit in the cave, the first suit. That is really cool. Watching him learn to upgrade the suit, the Mark II, the Mark III, and just watching that whole movie is fun. I need to go back and see it again. It's been several years since I watched it. And then that massive cliffhanger at the end about the Avengers. I love the first Iron Man. It's still probably my favorite MCU movie. It's such a fun watch. And I just love how more level-headed it is, again, relatively speaking, to the stuff we get now, which is, I feel like I'm watching a CGI show, a bad CGI show, a lot of times now. So yeah, those are probably my top 5 favorite Marvel projects. I want to know what or MCU projects. I want to know what you think of them and what 5 you would pick. So comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out, and I certainly appreciate it. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you'd like to send me to look at and review, and a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching. And number 1 on the list for me is Iron Man, the first Iron Man. I love the first Iron Man. It's so much more down to earth. I did forget one on there, but I'll get to it. It's so much more down to earth. And number 2 on the list is No Way Home, the most recent Spider-Man movie, and my favorite Spider-Man movie. It does a really good job of... Nope, I need a break.